And once again, I want to welcome you to today's webinar for the Young Lawyers Committee. And our topic for today is personal development for young lawyers. We're going to look at positioning and branding for young lawyers in a versatile economy. And like I'd mentioned earlier, our panelists are here and we're going to get right into it. Just a few housekeeping issues. We want to thank the young lawyers that have been with us in the previous year. Thank you very much. We want to appreciate your support in the previous year, and we as the committee have a lot stored for you. With the support of the East African Law Society, there's lots of topics that have been prepared for this year, so we look forward to more engagements in 2023. In case you have a topic that you want us to cover this year, please feel free to pass it on to the East African Law Society, or if you know any member of our committee, please let that in this new year and make sure that we are actually addressing the needs and branding and positioning ourselves as young lawyers. And therefore, that is why our opening webinar really is addressing that particular topic. And I want us to welcome our panelists, and I will let them say a few things about themselves before we get into today's topic. And I will invite, starting with Patson Arinaitwe. Patson Arinaitwe, you're welcome. Please, you greet the young lawyers that are already logged in.
Thank you, Agatha. Please confirm if I'm audible enough.
We can hear you, but you're a bit low.
Yeah, thank you, Agatha, and the team at ELS Young Lawyers for this opportunity. Patson Arinaitwe is my name. I'm a partner with Signum Advocates. I should say one of the fast growing business law firms in Uganda. A lawyer with specific specialization in arbitration with the emphasis in energy sector, as well as labor and employee mobility. So pretty much of what keeps me awake is employment matters and disputes in the energy sector. Well, I'm no longer a young lawyer, although I still, relate, but I'm already on the fourth floor. I enjoy playing football over the weekend. I'm married with 2 boys and a girl, and 8, 5, and 3. So it's what my family also defines who I am as as a lawyer. With over 15 years of experience spanning into lecture room, courtroom, and boardroom. I will say that for now, Agatha. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We lost a bit of your communication as to was breaking, but thank you, Patson, for being with us. I'll invite our other panelists who's ready with us, Benedict Ishabakaki. Please, you can introduce yourself and.
Yeah, so greetings to all. My name is Benedict Ishabakaki. I'm a lawyer practicing here in Tanzania. I'm a partner to a firm called Victoria Attorney and Consultants. Be nice to share my experience on the personal branding for young lawyers. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedict. And our other panelist with us is Eric Chivuva. I don't know why.
In fact, I was about to type how, first of all, thank ELS for this opportunity. I am indeed very humbled to have been picked to speak on this very important aspect. And, you know, unlike I think my other colleague who spoke not so long ago, I consider myself a young lawyer because I've only done about 10 years in practice. But just to speak to the person I am a partner, the law firm of McKay and Company Advocates. We set up in the year 2013, so we'll also be turning just about 10 years in a few months. I have practiced in the area of commercial. I've also been doing litigation and arbitration. Currently, in the spirit of being versatile, the thing that I have picked up is what I would call climate change justice, and I am pursuing a master's in the area of climate change and adaptation, with an interesting of just understanding how we can ensure there is more justice for the parties that are polluting the least and being the worst victims of climate change. I am a married man, a father to one son, and I am really looking forward to just interacting with learned colleagues and getting to learn from each other. Thank you very much, Aga.
Thank you very much, Eric. And for the brief introductions, we shall go straight into our topic for the day on branding. And one of the things that we want to look at really is what is a personal brand in respect to a young lawyer. And I will give each one of our panelists that are currently with us just 1 minute to let us know what is a personal brand in respect to a young lawyer. And please tell us, why does it matter for us as young lawyers to have a personal brand? And maybe in the reverse order, we shall start with you, Eric.
Well, I don't know whether 1 minute will do it justice, but in a sense, for me, personal brand is what you are known for, and what you are known for will extend to the physical attributes, like how do people take you in the manner of your dress, in the manner that you appear. There will also be the issue of character. Are you known to be a person of integrity? Are you known to be someone who cannot be trusted? And then there is what I would call the intellectual branding, where now there will be the question of what area of law are you known for, or are you known as maybe a budding expert or already an expert in. I think for me, those three attributes sum up what I would call a personal brand.
Thank you, Eric. But why is the personal brand? Why does it matter? Why do we have to have one as young lawyers?
Very well. Thank you for the follow-up question. I think why you must have a personal brand is for the simple reason that a brand is what sets you apart from the rest of the pack. And before you become an advocate, before you are admitted to the bar, there is what you must have had in mind. You had a vision of this is the kind of advocate I want to become in the future. A personal brand enables you feed into that vision of what you want to become. What kind of an advocate do you want to become in the future starts with how you brand yourself. For example, if you want to become an advocate who is doing conveyancing, you must be one who is known for their attention to detail. People must have trusted you as an advocate who pays attention to detail, but also importantly, an advocate who is reliable. And I think on the issue of reliability, it is across the board. Any area of practice, you must be a reliable individual? What kind of relationships have you built? What base of knowledge do you have? What areas of law can you speak to without really struggling? And so when you lay down that particular, it is easy for you to become an authority, to you being what I would call general, where everybody knows Agatha is an advocate, but no one can really pick you out and say Agatha is a good litigator. You know, when she addresses court, everybody pays attention. Agatha is a good draft person, you know, and so on and so forth. So that's why I think a personal brand is very important, especially towards meeting the expectation of your vision as to the kind of advocate you want to become.
Thank you, Eric, for that. And let's go to Patson. Eric has really explained what a personal brand is and why it matters. And my question to you, Patson, then is, at what point in time do we need to brand ourselves as young lawyers? Or what are your thoughts about that? At what point do we have to brand ourselves? Over to you, Patson.
Yes, thank you, Agatha. You probably forgive me in case of my network. I'm at the source of Nile trying to do a team building for a farm for the next 12 months. So my connectivity is not as strong as it should be. And I appreciate Eric's views, which I relate with as well on what personal brand is. But probably first to add, when somebody mentions your name in a professional context, what do they say about you? I think it's a rhetoric question for each one of us that we need to consider. When somebody mentions your name in a professional context, what do they say? Or what do you actually want them to say? There are two questions. What do they say? Or what do you want them to say? And the second segment, of course, you've asked why is it important for the young lawyers? Of course, when you talk about personal branding, whether you know it or not, you already have a brand. And from, I think, Eric's view, when you consider, personal brand to be in the context of skill set, in the context of character, in the context of experience, it means at whatever stage in your professional career you are, you already have a brand. The issue is whether the brand you're portraying is the brand you'd want to portray. So when you talk of skills, and probably for me, I would add more of character from the branding point of view to say, when you talk of a brand, what do the employers, what do your clients, what do your colleagues at work say about you in the professional context, in your personal capacity? As you might be aware, legal services is personal. We might build structures of formidable law firms, of institutions, but at the end of it all, you will note that it goes back to an individual within structures and what kind of clients do you attract. So from the young lawyer's perspective, it becomes very important early in the professional career to define the narrative so that you are intentional on what people would say about you, not only from the personal point of view, but also from the professional point of view. You can't allow personal brand to chance. It's got to be intentional to build an impression which is authentic. And I would want to add the aspect of authenticity in the brand. We've seen people who, you add a lot to who you are, but what do you think people should interpret you to be when you're actually not? So as you look at experience, skill set, character, and Eric elaborated on trust, does it actually reflect the authentic you? Because at the end of the day, people can see through some of the cracks. If if you build a personality that is not yours. But we build personalities from experience, from the training, from the mentors and we work with, from the mentees. And for me, from my personal point of view, I've been privileged to work with some of good people that invested time in, in my learning. I recall my first 3-4 years, in practice, seeing one of the partners I was working with, the past president of the Law Society, helping me to churn my path, but ensuring that I remain authentic to my personality, but picking up along the way the experience and the skills that are required to package parts on the lawyer or the professional lawyer. Yeah. So it's important for a young lawyer to be aware early enough to avoid pitfalls that can either cause issues with trust, issues with respect, issues with ensuring that actually clients and your colleagues can actually look at you as a trusted legal advisor, but also someone who is reliable. But for me, I believe the first point of a young lawyer is to be a good person. That's the first brand I would tell someone. There are not many good people out there. When you are a good person, other things can easily be, added on, the skills and the experience.
Thank you, Patson. You've mentioned something that has stuck out, authenticity. And I just wanted to ask specifically, as young lawyers, when we get out of university or from law school, and you're employed in a workplace, really, you're doing what your boss or your senior is giving you to do. How do you then brand yourself, yet you don't have control of the work that you're doing at that particular time?
Yeah, thank you, Agatha, for that. And I'm probably sure that every young lawyer would relate with that experience. I recall, over 10 years ago when I was told to defend a gentleman who had beaten his wife. That was totally against my core values. Yes, everyone is entitled to legal counsel, but as a young lawyer, I wanted to choose the nature of work that I've got to do. And here were instructions that you must, represent this person. Part of it is to remain professional. When you do work half-hearted, sometimes it will reflect in the quality of work. And one aspect I would emphasize for any young lawyer, let work product speak for itself, regardless of your concerns over the nature of work. But I'll speak a few things that, sometimes come out that are very important. A good example is that when you say, allow me give you this work by 5 o'clock today, and 5 o'clock has reached, you've actually not delivered that work. Now, it doesn't matter the nature of work. It's a promise you have made. And for me, the authenticity that I treasure most is to say, if I've told the client, I'll get back to you tomorrow by 8 a.m., I will. If I'm unable, I will still get back to them and say, I'm unable to deliver what you told me to do at 8. Probably, can you allow me to deliver it at 5? So when you talk of authenticity, it doesn't mean that you create magic. But can somebody see the authentic you to say, I'm not a magician. If I fail to deliver, I will communicate in advance that I can't. If I said I'm deliver, but I will also deliver. For me, that's the authenticity I'm talking about. So even when you say, I'll do this work, add a certain level of professionalism, regardless of your feelings about the nature of work. We know that as young lawyers, we get into the gutters. We've got to do a lot of work. And when I look back now, some of the things that I did not want to do, they have been a great addition now. And when I look back, I remember I hosted the first employment conference in Uganda, and I called my first boss. I can mention Professor Valia, who is one of the leading employment legal practitioners in Uganda. And he laughed at me when I was calling him to be one of the speakers. The reason I resigned from his firm is that I did not want to do employment work. And here I was in my advanced now in career, and I look back to the training he gave me, and we could, laugh about it. But the experience I got there, much as we view now employment from the different lenses, he represents employees. I chose to represent businesses and employers. But I still look back to what I didn't want to do, and I pick a leaf now in advancing and my career further. So regardless of the nature of work, sometimes we are faced with wrong or condescending supervisors. You've got to keep your chin up to understand that I've got a job to deliver, and legal practice is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You've got 10, 30, 40 years ahead of you, and every work is a lesson that you pick.
Thank you, Patson. Just to remind participants, if you have a question or a comment, please use the Q&A section or the chat section for that, and we shall address any issues arising as we proceed. So if you have a question, please use the Q&A, and if you want to comment on something, please use the chat section. Benedict, the previous panelists have really elaborated on what a personal brand is and why it's important, and at what point really should young lawyers brand themselves. My question to you is, how do we convey our personal brand? And I think Patson has touched a bit of that in his comments. Benedict, could you please comment on that? How do we convey, how are we supposed to convey this brand that we are talking about?
Yeah, thank you. And of course, I need also to appreciate my other colleague who, of course, already presented almost what, of course, I wanted to present in my slide. I think everyone and participant, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I think because I prepared a kind of short, brief slide, which of course I'll share to you after this conversation. But I have to agree with Eric and Patson, and just to add on what they've said, to me, what I may say is simply branding is both offline and online. Because majority of people, they may, or of course, young lawyers, they may think when we are talking about personal branding, we are talking about the presence of you online, or the way you show yourself, or the way you express yourself online. And then the other thing, which of course, before I answer your question, which I want also to put it clear, is that there are different between personal branding and personality. So I agree with Eric and Patson the way they, elaborate what the definition of personal branding, which includes sets of skills, experience, and personality. But to me, I think personality may take it out of part of personal brand, because personality is based on the character, and that is you. So, for instance, if Benedict if Benedict is smiling all the time while meeting the client, that is my personality. I may not pretend. But for young lawyers to understand, branding is something which you can build on your own. So, for instance, if you want, other lawyers or the market to know that you are a competent lawyer and you are expensive lawyer, that is something which you can build over time. And then everybody will talk in town that a certain law firm is a law firm of this stage, or a certain lawyer is a lawyer of this stage, which means the kind of case they are taking, the kind of client they are moving out with. Those are intentional set of skills and experience which you take it out to the public or to your clients for them to know you. But personality, this is something which, of course, you are born with, or this is something which has character in it. Now, to answer your question, how do you convey your personal branding? If you read on my my slide, I had elaborated 5 steps, which, of course, for any young lawyer, whether you're fresh from school or whether you're still also in university, you can still start to build brand. Because also, to put it clear, branding does not just start when you are going to get an employment. Brand starts anytime when you think that it's proper for you to build your brand. For instance, myself, I had my own brand since the days when I was at university, because I used to participate in a lot of mood court competition. I used to be the president of Human Rights, association. And that's what also I was debating out to the public, that who am I, to the extent that when I just got out of university, my first employment was in the Human Rights NGO. So you can see these are targeted things which you do while aim at something. So coming to the answering your question, of course, there are 5 steps which you need to do or to convey your personal brand. And the strategy is, number 1, you need to have goal. And the goal is, who are you first? As my colleague Eric and Person already said, who are you and how do you want now the public or the consumer of your service as a lawyer? And my apology, I'll just go straight to the law business, because as we are talking here, we are talking about lawyers, so I may not talk about other issues. So specifically, know your goal. Who do you want to be known? Are you want to be known as a human rights lawyer? Are you want to be known as a tax lawyer? Or are you want to be known as a corporate commercial lawyer? There are a lot of areas, and nowadays there are a lot of areas which are coming. You know, there are artificial intelligence, data protection, and etc. So that is the first goal you need to make sure that you're in. Then the second issue is finding your own style or your own niche. So you may find even in your own law firm that there are certain people who are known maybe for good writing or technical mastery of something, or they are lobbyists, or they know to go, or they are sharp in their work. So these are niche which you are supposed to build on your own. So you need to know who are you first before you know what is your niche and set of skills. That is number 1. And then and this is very important. So for instance, if you're not a good writer, you may not, claim it that to be part of your niche or your skills. Of course, you may learn over the time, but that may not work in future. So you need to find the area which you like. You need to find the area which you have passion on the same, and then now start to build the set of skills and niche on the way the way you think that is fit for you. And with time, that the brand will come. And do not, say that because maybe my partner or my mentor is doing this way, then I think I'm also supposed to do this way. You need to find your own niche on what you think you're good at and what do you think you're known for. And then number 3 is identify the media that works for you. As I told you before, personal branding is not about online per se. It's also about offline. So for instance, myself, I'm a member to CEO Roundtable here in Tanzania. And purposely, I've done that as part of my branding. So if I go there and then other CEO of the country, we are talking about telecom, we're talking about CEO from the Bank of Tanzania, then they see this young man join in this platform, that is already building your brand, that you are also part of them. So that is offline branding, but you still building your brand depending on the who are you meeting and where do you go, which hotel do you go, which hotel do you have lunch, things like that. And then, or if you think maybe you want to portray that in a social media, which of course is something which is very recently now you may choose a social media to do. So you may do LinkedIn or your Twitter. Now this depending on the kind of clients you are targeting or kind of people you think you're going to reach out. And then number 4 is be intentional and consistent. As I told you, brand is intentional. It's not a matter of lucky, or it's not a matter of coincidence. You need to know for sure that what is your target. So for instance, I may give you a very good example for my firm, who I'm a partner, Victor and consultants. Right now, a lot of firms, when they have issues to do with data protection and cybercrime issues, they make a reference to our firm. And the reason why is, of course, we are involved in a certain project to do with artificial intelligence and data protection. But what we did, we tried to write a lot on those issues, and this was intentional writing. Of course, first of all, you make the public to be aware of the data protection and this kind of laws and development. But it is intentional that you want to show to the public or to other lawyers that this is your area of niche, or this is a set of skills which you have, so that when they need a kind of lawyer, or when this corporate need a kind of lawyer who has a set of skills in data protection or cybercrime or ICT issues, they know for sure where to go and where to get. So be intentional, that is number 1, but also be consistent. And then number 5, to finish, I'll say give value and target your audience. As Eric and Patson said, you know, you just from school, you may not just say you're corporate commercial or you do conveyance, while in real sense you don't know ABCD of it. So so much as you'd like to build your brand, but also be authentic, be realistic. You cannot just say you're a guru of conveyancing and then someone come to you, you know, for instance in Tanzania, someone come to you, you already say you're a guru of conveyance or real estate or commercial property, then someone come to you and then a certain client then say, how can I get a derivative right? And then you don't know even the meaning of derivative right, or how can I, you know, co-own this land with my family, and then you don't know even the meaning. So for me, that is not a brand, that is a lie, which of course, as per the professional ethics and conduct, we are not allowed to do the same. So I think I'll be answering that question for now.
Thank you, Benedict, for that wonderful submission. And we are going to look at some of the questions that are coming up in the Q&A session. And if any of the panelists would like to answer some of the questions there, please, you can take time to do that, either live or in the section there. But maybe there's a question of Abdallah that he's asked in respect to personal branding. He says there's a factor of keeping up with promise on delivery of services to clients, as it was mentioned in the lecture here. There has been some serious challenges when dealing with conveyancing with the Land Commission here in Zanzibar due to long delays and unpredictability. The delay to timely delivery of services has caused serious trust issues and dissatisfaction between legal practitioners with their clients. How do you deal with a situation like that? Any panelists can pick up this concern. Patson, you had hinted on it. Do you want to pick it up? Or Benedict?
Yes. Maybe yes, I can just add, and my colleagues would add on. Abdallah, I think that your concern is not only unique to Zanzibar. Land conveyance, I think, in Africa is a big challenge, and we know that while land is a critical factor of production, it's very difficult in Africa to do business without land. Our governments or structures have not enabled, you know, quick turnaround time to ensure that we deliver to our clients very fast. But I think what is critical, or the takeaway from this discussion, is that we will face challenges. Today it's conveyancing, tomorrow it might be something else. And some matters that may be out of our control. Of course, any business would want to have a lawyer who understands their business and they're able to turn around deliver work in record time. But the question for brand here is probably, when you face those challenges, do you wait for your client to call you? Or do you actually communicate? Even from the start, these are the challenges we envisage, strategically or innovatively, this is how we intend to resolve them, but we'll keep you updated on every stage. And for me, the communication is very important. Sometimes as lawyers, we think we can create magic. And some lawyers who have tried to create magic have landed into professional misconduct issues, at least in Uganda. Either they don't want to pay stamp duty because they want to jump that hurdle of revenue authority, or somehow they want to leapfrog the process so that they can meet the client's expectations in form of time. Now they end up in misconduct issues. And the professional career built on such can't last. And there are quite a number of examples on how they crack probably after 2-3 years, or sometimes clients get to know what they're doing because there's an exposure. So while there are challenges, part of my advice in terms of authenticity is to let the client know what you can do. But also, instead of communicating limitations and excuses, the client needs to see that you are being innovative to resolve the issue, than sitting back because our system is bad, we fold. I've just seen my partner here, Alex Matovo, who is very good in the conveyance. I know he's logging in from London. I hope he would chip in on this because that's his area of expertise. But it's critical that we communicate. Clients want to see a lawyer who is innovative, who is trying to push to ensure that they overcome the barriers where they can't. Communicate. And when you communicate, and in most cases they know that you face these challenges, they remain authentic with you because they know it's a lawyer who is true. Yeah, I'll leave my colleagues to add on. Yeah.
Thanks, Patson. Benedict, you wanted to comment on that as well?
I think maybe I may go direct to kind of question. I'll reserve my comments on that question.
That's fine. There's so many questions that are popping up in the Q&A, and we shall address them as they come. But maybe I wanted us to go back to thank you, Ambrose, for that. I wanted to say, before we continue with the questions, I would like us to pick up something Patson mentioned on mentorship and how he was privileged to have a mentor in his early years of practice. And there could be a young lawyer out there who wants to actually start out their practice straight from law school. What advice would you give to that lawyer who is not privileged to have mentorship, but wants to brand themselves straight out of university? Eric.
Thank you, Agatha. I know maybe Patson will speak so much into this, because maybe just to speak to my case, I never really had, I would say, the benefit of a structured mentorship per se. But the thing that has kept me going and the thing that has made me become the lawyer that I am today is the vision of the kind of lawyer that I had in mind when I was starting out. I knew that this is the path that I want to pursue. I also knew that there are a number of advocates that I admire, and these are people that I followed. I would just follow up their cases, just get to know what are they all about and how do they achieve the things they are able to achieve. And that is what helped me now become the kind of lawyer I am today. My advice starting out, I go back from the inception. You must know what it is that you want. What do I want to become? And if I want to become this kind of lawyer, I must start living as if I am already that lawyer, or I must start living in anticipation or in preparation to becoming that kind of an advocate. For example, you will not want to become a renowned litigator, and maybe your first point of call or where you start out is as in-house counsel. That dream might become lost as you progress. And maybe just to speak to my own experience, I had loved litigation generally, but at the time when I was just about to finish my pupillage, there was a job opening in the newspaper, and I remember it was actually just a number of colleagues who suggested there is this job. I think we are qualified and we can try it out. There is no harm. Fortunately or unfortunately, I got the job, but the job was for an in-house counsel. And so I ended up becoming an in-house counsel. I departed from the path that I had desired for myself and the thing that I was in love with, which was a career as a litigation advocate. Eventually, I had to quit from in-house to come and set up my own firm. But even after I had set up my own firm, It was not until about 4 years later that I was able now to gravitate back into doing litigation. So for me, and borrowing from my own experience, the focus on what you want is very important. And that is the thing that is going to drive you into aligning yourself with a mentor who is going to enable you attain your goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. And part of
Agatha, can I just add something?
Yes, please.
And I know Eric has ably talked about discovering oneself, and I'm sure Eric might be among the very few where at the beginning or the inception of the career, you have your roadmap laid down. And for me, for the young lawyers, it's okay if you do not know what you want to be. And in most cases from law school, you may not. I recall my personal experience from law school. I applied for masters in international humanitarian law. I traveled to Geneva. After 4 months of my master's program, I dropped out. I had to test, this is not what I want to do. But it had to take, even a travel. But what is probably critical is that we all need anchor people. In this context, we are calling them mentors. And sometimes you may not have those mentors, but I would encourage every young lawyer to have that person, the bounce of ideas on what they want to be. Somebody who can be like an accountable person to interrogate your journey, to guide you. In life, even now, after 15 years in practice, I still have mentors. And I've had to be able to run the same journey to guide some lawyers whom I'm now proud of, because sometimes, when I see what they have become and they're authentic with their own personality and brand, it's a joy to watch. So it's critical that in your journey, if you can't find answers, try to get. There might be workmates, there might be colleagues, there could be even people who are not even in the legal profession, but who can help ask the right questions to help you discover who you are or who you want to be. And for me, that discovery is very important. Eric has talked of role models. Of course, we've got to differentiate between a mentor and a role model. And watch. If you have a role model you admire, ask for a coffee appointment. And most senior lawyers out there, sometimes are willing to actually help and turn around somebody's career. It's a question of a phone call, and they know, somebody wants my help. There are those who may not, because of time or because of character, but I'm sure you'll find that one person whom you can have a 15, 20 minutes coffee, and that could be a game changer. So it's critical to have the support system around you. When you fault, you know when to get back. Sometimes you make career decisions and you veer off the path. I think there's Millicent who was asking if I want to do some work, now do I have to first go look for employment so that I gain the experience and come back? And my answer probably is not. We learn from different people. It could be shadowing somebody. If you ask somebody, can I tag along in this kind of work? Others may say yes, others may say no, but try. Read more in that particular area, and you'll be able to gain that insight that you need to discover your path or to get the necessary skills you need to grow your career.
Thanks, Patson, for that addition. There's a suggestion in the chat section about the PowerPoint presentation. Not all panelists have prepared PowerPoint presentation, but we are going to allow the ones that have the PowerPoint presentation to go ahead and elaborate on the points in their PowerPoint presentation. So let's allow Benedict. Benedict, would you please go ahead with some of the points in your PowerPoint presentation in respect to what we have so far covered?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Agatha. Of course, I understand that we of course, some of us they didn't prepare, some of the panelists they didn't prepare a presentation. I did it purposely because I know maybe you could share also to other young lawyers in the platform. And I'll keep sharing while my colleague Eric and Person, they are sharing their own, of course, views. I'll also keep sharing the area which of course I also think maybe I've also touched in my presentation. There are two questions which I saw in this room. I'll like to address them before I proceed to answer kind of the question, which of course is also part of my presentation. Number one was, if I'm not given, I'm in a law firm, I'm in in-house counsel, and then I'm not given work which is which form part of my area of interest. Do I quit or do I find for an alternative work? My answer for young lawyers is normally, first of all, you need to look on yourself, because you know there's something called passion and their reality. So maybe if you quit and then, you know, with the current trend of employment issues here in our country, both East Africa, you may quit and then at the end of the day, you may not even, you know, be able to get a normal income which you used to get. So I'll say depend. Of course, if you are from well-off family, you may quit and then start, you know, writing an article or focus on the area of your interest. But if you are you know, the breadwinner of your own family, I'll say no, stick in that area, do what you are supposed to do for the moment. And then once you know that you are capable of moving out, you may move to do that kind of area of the interest which you prefer. And then the other thing is from the other panelists, of course, contribution, I would also say that there are kind of course, branding which people, I agree with Patterson that do not just say you're going to such certain area of profession at an earlier stage, because you know when you join let's say this in-house counsel, let's say in a big corporation or in a law firm, that's where now you discover a lot of things. Because when we are at university, you know, you just learn law as a theory, but when you come now into practice, that's where now you know there are other areas which you are not aware of. And that's why I say I think it's too early for a person to say that I'll be measuring in a certain area, while of course you're just at your initial stage. And I think we also need to separate these two issues: specialization vis-a-vis branding. I agree, and I do agree that part of our brand also form part of our of course, that's also a question which of course Agatha, you asked. Part of our brand also form part of our branding, part of our specialization. So for instance, you may be specialized in tax law to the extent that when people are talking about the tax guru or tax lawyers, they'll just mention specific your name. For me, that is a brand. But you may be specializing on tax law, but other people, they may know you as a bold lawyer, for instance, or sharp lawyer, or smart lawyer, or a lawyer who doesn't afraid of anything, or you know, or a lawyer who writes well. So there are very numbers of you know, characteristics of brand, and not only specialization. Specialization can be a very good to, you know, to weigh you out that you are your specialty in this area. But these other character, like you know, the way you are, the way you present yourself, you know, the billing style which you do, those may also form part of the branding. Yeah. Over to you, Agatha.
Thank you. Thank you, Benedict, for that. And yes, we shall ensure that the PowerPoint presentation is shared for us to look at even after the session. But right now, in a special way, I want to welcome our other panelist that has joined us, Molly Rigamba. You're most welcome to today's webinar. And just for purposes of catching up, I will let you introduce yourself, and then we shall get back to where we were at. Molly, over to you. Molly, are you there? Okay, as we wait for her to get settled in, we shall continue with our discussion. And Benedict really hinted on it. When people talk of branding, sometimes as young lawyers, there could be a confusion as to whether branding is the same as majoring in a specific area of the law. And he has ably addressed that, but maybe the follow-up question would be, how do we position ourselves as young lawyers? We've talked of branding, and they've given us several insights on what personal branding is, but Eric, could you elaborate more on positioning? How do lawyers, young lawyers, position themselves in this versatile economy?
Thank you, Agatha. I think that is a very important discussion point. And I want to just marry it with what I would call just a building of credibility and trust. I think you had made some communication, and that was there, of credibility, and entails you, number one, building a knowledge. And you have the advantage of energy, and you have the advantage of a mind that is not burdened by the many responsibilities that come about as a result of maybe just having been around planet Earth for longer than maybe, let's say, 30 years and above. And so there are specific emerging areas of law. I think Benedict has made reference to data protection, cybersecurity. There is now the issue of climate change. Build your knowledge base on these areas of law. It means that anyone who is encountering an issue in this new area of law will have you to consult. But how then do you make them aware that you do exist? The beauty of the times we live in is that there is social media, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there is Instagram, there is Twitter, and many other social media platforms. You can start, for example, by giving commentaries on these particular areas of law, and so that your name becomes synonymous, let's say, for example, with the area of data protection. But then there is building credibility, which entails you knowing the thing you know and knowing it very well. The market needs to know that Agatha has the final word in the area of data protection. And what she will tell me is not what she's read on Google. What she will tell me is not what she's heard in the media. And after she has spoken, I will not go to the act, for example, and find something that is not something that is contrary to what she talked about, either on TV, what she talked about on her YouTube channel, and so on and so forth. And so when you are so well versed, so knowledgeable in that particular area of law, it means that you become credible. And from credibility flows trust. And from trust flows instructions. So for me, those three aspects, where you build your knowledge base, which in turn brings about credibility. From credibility flows trust. From credibility flows instructions. That for me would be the best way to position yourself as a young lawyer. And it does not necessarily be something in the new areas of law. It can be in an established area of practice, but there can be some new things, some emerging questions that come about out of other emerging areas of law, or out of a particular development, either in the law in your country or the law across the globe. So that for me would be the way to position yourself.
Thank you, Eric. And once again, welcome Molly to the webinar. Could you kindly make your introductory remarks at this point?
Thank you, Agatha. And first of all, apologies for joining in a bit late. So my name is Molly Rigamba, and I'm not a young lawyer, but I hope young lawyers can learn a few things from me. I'm a commercial and corporate lawyer based in Kigali. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Maybe you could share a few cents on what you think for the current versatile economy.
I'm not sure whether I'm the one who had an internet problem, but I didn't hear your full question. Can you please repeat?
Yes, could you kindly comment on how young lawyers can position themselves or brand themselves to benefit from the legal practice?
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I'll speak, I think I'd like to say that I'll speak from my heart, because I didn't prepare anything, but also from my experience. And I hope it will be helpful for young lawyers here. One thing that I usually tell, especially the young lawyers that I mentor, as soon as they join practice, is that first of all, your personal brand is not different from your professional brand as a lawyer. And this also applies to other professions like doctors, but maybe for lawyers, it's even worse. So as a young person that is coming into practice in this highly competitive market, one thing that you really have to work on is your personal brand. And when I talk about personal brand, and I don't know if the other panelists have already mentioned this, you'll excuse me if they've already touched on this, but what I mean by personal brand is, what do you want people to know you for? Do you want, what are your values? What do you stand for? Because this really adds so much onto what clients you might get. And the reason why I'm saying this, even in big law firms, you realize that a client will come and say, you know, I've come to this firm, but I want to work with a specific person. I want to work with A, B, or C. And there's usually a reason. And this, again, I'm tying it to values. They will mention this because maybe the work that you do it with excellency, you're known for excellent work, or you're known for your values, you're a person that keeps your word, or you're known, but there are also other lawyers who are known for being cheaters, or for being deceitful, or for, for lying. So what brand do you want to be known for? Because that brand is what is going to sell you on the market. So today, if you're coming in as a young lawyer, work on your brand, because I've heard people say, oh, if you're a lawyer, the way you appear, in terms, especially physically, the car you drive, the clothes you put on, is okay. Those to some extent will also maybe matter, but later. Of course, because someone will trust you with a multi-million-dollar project because they think that you can actually think at the same level. But before you get there, what is your personal brand? What have you built that that you stand for? So if they say Molly the lawyer, what does that mean in people's minds? Is what will sell. So and I usually again tell young lawyers, I'm like, your attitude on the market is what will determine, just like the saying that says that your attitude determines your altitude. Your attitude on how you deal with clients, how you do things, is what will actually determine how far you can go. You might be this very smart lawyer, but how you deal with your clients, how you deal with in the market, it will also be your personal brand. So I think in a snapshot, that's what I can advise young lawyers, to really work on their personal brand, before anything else, because that will sell them, it will create a competitive advantage on the market as compared to other lawyers who probably don't have values they stand for or who have really built a bad reputation. Back to you, Agatha.
Thank you very much, Molly, for that snapshot. And our other panelist is with us as well. I'm going to allow her to say a few introductory remarks as well, then we continue with the discussion. Over to you, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Diane Kagwiza. I'm a Burundian. I'm a managing partner of No Advocate. It's a business law firm. I'm an expert in corporate and commercial law. I think many have been said by other panelists, but let me add something on what they have already said. We are in a very competitive economy in East Africa. I read somewhere that we are almost 28,000 of lawyers in East Africa only. And then if, as young lawyers, if you want to be competitive, you have to look for something that is really specific for yourself. Some mentioned that they have to be specialized in an area. It's a good thing, but also, is it possible to be invaded or overwhelmed by others who are already in that area? But also, you have to be yourself. Then you have to brand your character, brand what you know exactly. I don't know, to copy others. For personal branding, as my colleague had already said, it gives you credibility, trust, and worth. It helps you to get out from the crowd in others, and it forces you to access how you are currently perceived in the community. When you have nothing to prove, or that is really you, I think you have nothing to give to the community and be competitive. But also how to do it, to be competitive, to build your own status or your own brand. I encourage young lawyers to go on social media to tell themselves what they do, to participate, to be engaged in discussions like this, and contribute perhaps in writings and create opportunities that can be visible when they are in activities, perhaps in bar association. Also make connections and cultivate relationship, be engaged in the community. Because if you are just focused on the area of practice, perhaps you can be you cannot be seen because others are already there. But for the character you put in front, or something else, like if you are good socialization, for instance, like this thing will get you known before they know what area you practice in. It is very important for them to be seen, to find a way to be seen before put in front the area of practice. This is my first counsel advice for young lawyers. But also, of course, if you have been seen when you are already on the before the scene, you have to prove who you are then, and the competence, experience you have, and what you can put in front with to your client and others when you have been seen before. I think many things I have prepared have been already mentioned by others. Perhaps with question we have more to say other than this. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Diane. maybe just to mention is that I want to appreciate our panelists for standing out and branding themselves, because when we were looking for panelists, young lawyers did suggest each one of you, and that comes from a place of how you have branded yourselves so well in the market that some young lawyers would want to emulate the example that you have set. So well done to our panelists. There's been a mention of credibility and trust. And I would like our panelists to comment more on that. How do we build this credibility and trust? And I think one of our participants has asked, let's include confidence in there. Yes, we want to brand ourselves, but some of the young lawyers are not even confident yet to do that. So how do we build confidence? How do we build the credibility and trust that you're talking about? And I will start with Eric. Eric, over to you.
Thank you, Agatha. And I don't know where a person disappeared to. I seem to have become a soft target. Nonetheless, I think in answering this particular question, I want to speak to something that Benedict made a reference to about personality and personal brand. And maybe I want to just bring about some clarity on what I think might be some confusion that might arise regarding personality and personal brand, and especially in the kind of field we are in, which is the practice of law. And Patson made reference to the fact that the practice of law or the business of law is personal. There is the connection with the client, and there is a reason why a particular client will come to a particular law firm. They'll come to McKay Advocates and say, I want to deal with Kivuva and not so and so and so and so on and so forth. And so if you understand your personality very well, and you know that there are certain aspects of your personality that might hinder you to, or rather might stop you from getting to where you want to go as an advocate, then it means that these are areas of your personality that you need to work on for you to be able to build a brand and for you to, in a sense, cut through, get into this very competitive practice and make a name for yourself. For example, I'll tell you the practice of law involves a lot of socialization. You will need to meet people, you will need to have meetings, and when it comes to marketing, especially for legal services, we say you do not propose marriage on day one. And so when you're approaching a client, let's say it's a corporate, you're meeting their legal officer. On day one, you cannot go and say, guys, I want you guys to give me a brief. I want you to put me in the panel. You must first of all build a relationship and sell to them whatever it is that you have to offer that is unique to you. And that will now enable them think about putting you in their panel, and then the jobs will come. So there is an aspect of patience. There is an aspect of building relationships. If you are an introvert, of course, that is an area where you might struggle, but you need to be aware that you're an introvert and work on your introvertedness when it comes to positioning yourself or pitching for work. But that said, regarding credibility, I had made reference to branding having to do with how you appear, you know, are you well dressed? Because we live in a world that is vain. And so more often than not, before people can hear you, they will first see you. And everyone likes looking at good things or things that appear very nice. So where you can help it. And I always argue that looking good doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. Look good. And you live in the modern age where you have your brother and close friend Google, but also there are many other, I think it's an application, there is the application called Pinterest, where you can just pick up how does a a yellow tie look on a red shirt, and so on and so forth, so that you will have an appearance that is appealing to the person that you are meeting. Then number two, I spoke about character branding and intellectual branding. For me to address the issue of credibility and trust, I want to dwell so much more on the character branding. Your colleagues, even from law school, know you in a particular manner. And where you think that there might have been misunderstanding that might have come out of the folly of youth that comes with being a campus student or a student generally, then you need to work on that character for you to be known for better things. If you are known as someone who cannot be trusted, then your colleague who works in a corporate somewhere will never want to mention your name to their bosses seeking to have you empaneled, because they cannot trust you with anything. But if you have you've branded your character in a manner that maybe people understand that when it comes to work, the one person you want to have on your team is one Hanning, is one Agatha, is one Oma Frederick, then it becomes easy for you to achieve credibility and trust, because this person who is working as an in-house counsel will trust you with their work, knowing that the kind of product you're going to deliver at the end of the day is one that will make them look good. And even their boss will say, it seems that you keep good company. And so credibility and trust flows from the kind of character branding that you have done. And also this marries with the intellectual branding. Are you well versed? When you, for example, are positioning yourself and you're saying, we are the foremost thought leaders in the area of intellectual property. Are you really grounded in that area of intellectual property? Are you able to distinguish between a utility model and a patent? Are you able to speak into these areas and guide clients in a manner that gives solutions to their unique problems? Or are you a person of what I call glittering generalities, where you know the high sounding, the big terms in that particular area of law, but you are not able to marry the solutions with your client's problems? And so branding yourself intellectually and having that grounding in whatever area of law that you've decided to pursue gives you credibility and trust. The one thing you must never do is oversell, because people suffer the danger of overstating their capabilities. And then when they are put to the test, the client becomes disappointed. Once you do such a thing, it means that, because unfortunately our economies are fairly young, and all the big corporates, they talk to each other. And so where you have oversold and said, I am an authority in this particular area of law, and then a problem or a legal issue is thrown your way, and when it comes to finding the solution, they realize that you are actually at sea. You are in a worse position than they are in when it comes to knowledge and being able to find the solution, then you lose credibility entirely. So for me, I think those many things go into building credibility and trust.
Thank you, Eric, for that elaborate explanation. And we have spent most of our time, and we are soon opening up the discussion to questions that have been asked. But even if you're there and you're a participant, you have a question, please, if you can raise your hand, we shall be able to identify you and you can ask it verbally. But also you can use the Q&A option or the chat option. Something has caught my attention in the, I think, Q&A. Someone wants to know, how do you brand yourself, not just nationally, but also internationally or in the region? If I'm a Ugandan young lawyer, but I want to be far-reaching beyond just Uganda, how do I do that? Over to you, Molly.
Thank you, Agatha. That is actually a good question, and everyone that comes into practice, that's the first thing they usually ask themselves. And maybe the benefit that young lawyers have today is their access to technology, especially social media platforms and all the networks that they can be able to access. And the reason why I'm talking about social media platforms is, you know, and I think I'm a culprit of what I'm going to say, but it should also be a good, it should be a good practice for people to, especially lawyers, to write articles in a particular area of practice. I think I joined this panel when they were talking about, I think, was it privacy and data protection? For example, write an article on data protection or on IP or on other areas of law and post it on your social media platforms, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, just, you know, as an awareness kind of strategy to people, but in that sense, indirectly marketing yourself, because I know it's against the professional ethics of lawyers to actually market themselves, but that is an indirect way of putting your work out there. That's one thing. If you have to do an outreach that is beyond your country, beyond the region and the rest of the world, where we know where most investors come from. Then the other thing also, and this is something that I think old lawyers have actually really mastered, is to create networks with international law firms. You know, look at where do most investors come from? Is it Dubai? Is it the UK? Is it USA? Is it really, depending on where they come from? Look for law firms in those areas and seek partnership with those law firms, even if it's not partnership, but also engage with the lawyers across the world. And through that, that's how referrals come in. Referrals come from big law firms, from all the networks that you've created. Then also, I think the other thing that I can also talk about, and I know this applies across the region, they're usually bilateral business forums or investment, how do they call them? Investment forums. I think take advantage of those, because in the past, what we've seen, if, for example, there's an investment forum or a business forum, lawyers tend to think that is for people who are in trading and other areas of business. And then you forget that actually this is where you get your clients. I think also participate in those and be able to get the best out of them. Then I think the others that also would maybe give you access to international clients are the likes of IBA, the International Bar Association annual events. There are all these networking sessions. So make sure that whatever your savings or whatever savings you make, put aside some money for business development in terms of these international trips where you have to meet or network with other people in your profession. I think that's what I can say in terms of exposure to the outside world beyond your countries or beyond our region.
Thank you, Molly. Patson, are you still there? We have a concern regarding the fact that as lawyers, we are not allowed to advertise, but all the advice you're giving us is we need to be out there. Where's the borderline? How do I be out there without passing off as advertising myself? or the service that I want to provide.
Yeah, thank you, Agatha. And I think the issue of advertising cuts across the region. I think the regulatory framework is the same, although I know in different jurisdictions, most of the regulators are looking into it, including Uganda, in terms of how to open up within the confines of the law. But I think there are quite a number of avenues, and I like what my colleague Molly has mentioned in terms of adverts. And if I may allow me speak from my experience as well. As a young lawyer, I've always wanted to do a dispute resolution, but particularly focusing on arbitration. And as you might be aware, in East Africa, it may not be easy to gain traction, in that area. And even for the firms or lawyers who are handling, they tend to be confidential, so you can barely find your space in there. But I've noted, for instance, there are quite a number of opportunities that can allow you to showcase your skills, but also within limited confines, be exposed to peers, to colleagues in the industry, as well as the consumers of services. I think as lawyers, one thing we ignore is that our closest clients are actual colleagues. When we speak of expertise in a particular area, can your colleagues talk about you in that space? And that speaks to, for instance, speaking engagements. When we say we have East African International Arbitration, it's coming up in August now. Have you been able to go there and interact with other users, with other potential clients, people who appoint? For instance, people who appoint arbitrators are usually our colleagues. Do they know you? Because now specializations have also become like clubs. So ensuring that you expose yourself to such forums become important. And East Africans, we've been disadvantaged because by our temperament, we tend to be laid back a bit. We don't want to push and showcase what we have. Unlike our colleagues in West Africa, if you get in the room with a West African lawyer, by the time you come out of that room, you will know them, you will know what they do. For the last 10 years, I was privileged to be part of the International Lawyers for Africa ILFA program. And lately I was part of the African Young Arbitrators that happened in London last year. But every time you look around in the room, you will only see a couple of our colleagues from Kenya, probably none from Tanzania, either one from Uganda, and probably none from Burundi and Rwanda. And all the other slots are being taken by more aggressive teams from other regions of Africa. So as South African lawyers, I think one key thing we really need to position ourselves is to ensure that our presence is felt wherever we go into those forums. Let's utilize secondments that some international law firms offer. Let's utilize opportunities for secondments, ICC, the London Court of International Arbitration, the Africa Arbitration Academy, quite a number. So let's get into the room where opportunities are, but also let's speak about our skill set. And sometimes it's okay to say, can I have a speaking engagement? It could be 1 minute, it could be 5 minutes. It's a journey. By the time you know it, you've not advertised yourself, but your peers know you, the industry knows you. Molly has talked about, for instance, business forums that happen. If you want to be an expert in the energy, there's usually energy week, oil and gas conversions. Are you part of it? Do you interact with clients? Do you follow up after those business forums? Do you write? We now write, there are different opportunities to write on social media, on your website, and others really published. Now, it's easier to write an article and spreads very fast within 10 to 15 minutes through WhatsApp. And that's why even our writing skills probably have to accommodate, social media. We can no longer write papers of 30 pages at a conference. If I do, then I will have an abridged version that is well branded, that is very clear, that I know it can be able to be transmitted through WhatsApp over a long period of time. That's part of branding us, part of positioning ourselves without necessarily breaking the advertisement rules.
Thank you, Patson. Is a concern regarding mentorship. Someone is asking that how do we approach senior lawyers for purposes of mentorship and career coaching? Some senior lawyers are too busy, they distance themselves from young lawyers, especially if a young lawyer seeks them out. Over to you, Deanne. What advice do you have for a young lawyer that would like to seek mentorship but is struggling to connect with a senior lawyer?
Thank you, Agatha, for this question. It's really a headache to find some senior lawyers to get mentored. But I can advise with these things. Many of them have some writing somewhere. You can follow this what you want for mentorship through writings, through when he's speaking in conferences or on the court. You can follow this mentor or through other I think other ways, without getting perhaps in touch directly with him. I know they are busy. I know they have many things to do. But if you could not approach this senior lawyer, you can pass by other ways, perhaps to approach him by reading what he has written, perhaps following him through his social medias, or follow him perhaps, I don't know. But also you can volunteer yourself and going to his law firm and ask for help if he is really in need of any help. That perhaps we be easy for these senior lawyers to listen to you. But also, if it is one, you can approach someone else. Don't be shy to approach many of lawyers you can contact. Perhaps one can refuse, but another one will be helping and listen to you. But also, you can not concentrate on what the mentorship of your National Bar Association, but you can go beyond, as others say, you can go beyond borders and follow on social media other perhaps lawyers who can help you with what you want to know exactly. We have a lot of way to be mentored by channels, by YouTube, by I don't know, but you can choose other ways to get mentored, not only for the lawyers in your area, but also outside. Be very creative and find many ways to contact people, not only to ask time to sit with you physically and explain things, but pass by other ways to contact people, or also this won't become a kind of village. You can be in mentorship with people who are not around you but outside. That's what I can mention about mentorship. But allow me to go beyond and then say about credibility and trust. I don't know if you allow me.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, you can create your credibility and trust when you are really yourself. You cannot be someone else, or someone say sell what you don't have and create credibility on that area. If you want to create credibility, say what you are and what you know exactly. This will help you to be known on this side, but also clients or your colleague will refer to you as what you are exactly and not what you are not. Be also in partnership when you are limited in some areas. Be in partnership with other colleagues who knows exactly what the client need. It is easy to be sincere of what you know, other than to market yourself on what you are not. That's what I have to say about credibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Please, participants, you're encouraged to ask your questions. If you want to ask them orally, that opportunity is there as well. And someone's hand has been up. Let's give them an opportunity to ask. Philip Munabi, your hand is up. Could you please ask your question?
Thank you, Agatha, for the opportunity. I'm Philip Munabi. I work with Diadem Advocates here in Kampala. I think mine is a comment and a question. I'll start with the comment. I will give testimony that I am one of the beneficiaries of such sessions. I always take a topic, I always take a point and put it to practice. There's a participant, Alex Matov, who is online in London. He once told me, he met me at a M&A summit. It was a pay-for event. He told me, Philip, what you have sacrificed to come here will be paid off with time. And he told me, do not give up. Whenever there is a session like this, please be part of it. I took it upon myself from that time. If there is I participate in the ELS AGM. I've gone for 2 ELS AGMs now, but I can testify to the participants that just yesterday, I received a call from someone in Zanzibar who gave me a client, an Irish client in Uganda. So we shouldn't take these things lightly. The moment you position yourself and build your brand and personality, which is also key, you will benefit from it within no time. My question, it would go to Ishabakachi, because he largely hit on it, how to use online and then the mentorship aspect, but I think Patson will relate more with it. How do you advise young lawyers to optimally use online branding, not in a way of taking the influencer aspect of it, because today you see a young lawyer so vocal online, but when it comes down to the reality of who he is and how he has placed himself, you find it's a totally different person. So how do you advise young lawyers to go about the media space vis-a-vis mentorship? Because I'll say it from experience, young lawyers these days, you tell them something, they're like, now those Patsons are lucky, because for them, at the time they started practice, the economy was not bad. So how do you advise them to go about that? Thank you.
Thank you. Benedict, over to you.
Thank you, Philip. So I was saying, number one, of course, in my presentation there, you may see things to avoid when you're building your brand. And this was just, of course, a tips which I got it just for online brand. Of course, remember since the beginning, I said there's an online brand and offline brand. So these are things to do in terms of online branding that directs the question which you asked. But before I go to those issues, you address the things which avoid when you're building, I would say 5 issues. Number one is competence. So if you are there in online, as my colleagues say, and then you say maybe you are competent in a certain area, let's say data protection, and then for instance today someone asks, for instance here in Tanzania the law has already been enacted, and then someone asks, is the law yet in practice or not? And then you cannot even answer that question, which means you are not credible, and which means you are not even competent in that area. So make sure that number one, your competence on the area which you claim that your competence. In that regard, you need to say a very updated on in terms of everything which goes in that area. You need to be aware of. Not that someone asks you, is this law, does this law has been gazetted, and then you say you're not sure. Of course, it's okay as a lawyer to say maybe you need to refresh your memory to talk to the people from the government to see whether the law has been gazetted or not. But since that is one among the area which your brand is, you are supposed to be aware. And then number three is stay relevant. And that's why I say, if you are saying, if you're going online, branding in online, you need to be very relevant in terms of what you share. And of course, the last session which I was engaged by East African Law Society was to measure or to discuss the line between your personal affairs as you and your professional affairs. So in terms of staying relevant, you need to be relevant. So if you happen to post in your pages, or let's say LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, things to do with an updates regarding the certain area of law, you need to be relevant and stay updated. So if you don't post, better don't post. If you post your social media about your family, just remain relevant. Post about your family, about your family affair or your personal affairs. But if you started posting something about the area or competence of law, just make sure that you are relevant in that area, you stay updated and your competence in that area. And as my colleague from Rwanda said, you need also to be authentic. Do not lie yourself. So if you know that this is the area which I'm competent with, remain authentic. And then the last issue is be responsive, or in terms of interaction. So for instance, if you've shared something in LinkedIn and then you see there are people who are asking for more clarity or they're asking for more elaboration, I understand you're a lawyer and we're not allowed to market ourselves, but try in a way to answer those questions, or try in a way to be interactive in a way that you may not advertise or provide legal services for free. And then the last 5 issues I mentioned here, these are the issues which you should avoid if you want to build your brand to stay very interesting online. Number one, neglecting online presence. So you cannot say, stop hibernating yourself. So once you are there in presence online, keep it there. For the people who are following my page in LinkedIn, you may see, you take some news, you share some news, not necessarily which are relating to your profession, but at least to keep, your followers, your clients updated. So for us lawyers, for me, for people who are following my page, you'll see I'm updating a lot about the investment issues here in Tanzania, corporate governance, court case decision, because those are issues which I like to be known for. And then lack of consistency in your branding. So today you are posting about, let's say, something else, and then tomorrow you're posting about something else. So especially for LinkedIn, which is a professional platform, just make sure that everything you post, even if you're in vacation, make sure that they relate to your professional, because that is a professional page. Of course, there's a new notion that you can also post family affairs, which of course also form part of our life, but try to link it in a way to go with your profession. And then avoid posting inappropriate content. I know most of the time you may post memes, because there are one mentor, of course, the mentor of mine, who told me that for you to gain more visible, for you to get more visible pages in LinkedIn, make sure you post a lot of memes. So even if they are not very much appropriate, but try to post them, because those are things which give a lot of people to like, and then at the end of the day, you get much more followers. But this is depending on the nature of profession which you are. As a lawyer, if you want to be professional, I think you should avoid posting this in appropriate content. But if you're a comedian or if you're doing marketing, I think you may post those memes or those, a kind of post which, of course, they may give you more likes or more followers. And the other reason, the other element which you need to avoid is posting irrelevant posts. Make sure everything you post is calculated. You don't just post because you've seen something and then you post. So if you want to build your brand, maybe let's say you want people to know that you're an artificial intelligence lawyer or data protection lawyer. Of course, you may post other issues to do with investment, project management, but make sure that everything to do with that new area, which of course you are passionate with, make sure you are aware and you share or you interact in those pages. And then another thing is avoid oversharing of your personal life. I do understand, of course, profession also come with a personal life, but avoid oversharing your personal affairs and rather stick to the content of professionality. And then the last thing to speak, you see, personal branding or professional branding, it's not about how many likes or how many comments do you have when you post something or when you post an article. I may give you an example. In our firm, we do publish a lot. Of course, we're among a top law firm here in Tanzania who do publish. You may not see, the output today, but in few years, I may tell you, just last few weeks, one of a client just reached out to me, and then they told us that you write a certain article 2 years ago, and I was not aware of that even article. So I need to ask my my associate and my partners, did we ever write something like this? But you may imagine 2 years after, a certain client was just having a frustration. He went into Google, he just Googled bankrupts in Tanzania or insolvency in Tanzania, and then they found our article. That's where, of course, now you build your brand, but also that's where, of course, you put your name close to the consumers who are the clients. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Benedict, for that wonderful, elaborate answer. Our time is fast spent. Just to remind participants, this presentation shall be shared with us on the emails that we use to register. Let's take the last questions. Leslie, your hand is up. In less than a minute, please ask your question. We can't hear you, Leslie. You're unmuted. Please speak. Okay, so Leslie, we can't hear you. Let's go to Tony Opeto. Could you please?
Hello? Yes, you can hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, this is Opeto. Yeah, I'm not having a question. I'm just trying to contribute to the overall discussion that has been happening. I've been keenly listening. I have a very different background, but in 2020, I decided to take law, and I started with a diploma in Uganda, but now I'm doing my LLB from the University of London. So why I actually wanted to interact here, because I've interacted with so many young lawyers and so many people who are doing law and hiring to be lawyers. I think I say very patient. Is our career, where we want to be, where we want those who are already met in life, and don't time. So being patient, knowing what we want and working toward it. And we have to be able to volunteer, be patient with our life, and also our career and what we want to do tomorrow. We might end up nowhere, and you might end up very frustrated, thinking like, oh, why is it I'm not making it? It's because you yourself, you're actually limiting yourself by patience in a career, or is a key to running a different race. And you see someone is still in first year or second year, is already thinking of and not even thinking like endure something to achieve what
Tony, you're breaking. We are not hearing most of what you're saying. So we're not hearing you. So I'll let Cube talk, and then you can come back on later.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. I am Gameli Senube. I am a legal practitioner from Zimbabwe. My question relates to mental health. How can young lawyers, in particular those that are just starting out, find a balance between the demands of the profession, one, and the overall fear of getting things wrong, because it seems to stifle a lot of young lawyers? What would be your advice in that regard? Thank you.
Thanks, Cube. I will let one of the ladies take that. Diane.
Yeah, thank you. It was about mentorship. Yes, the first thing we have to know is that to train ourselves, training again. Don't be shy, because when you are shy, you can not have anything. And be proud of yourself, of what you know, and go and ask. Because if you don't ask, you don't know if you are getting or not. But if you want to be mentored, really, you have to put all chance on your side and go and ask for mentorship. If you have already know what you want exactly, the first thing is to set up your vision, your goals, what you want really, and identify the one you want to be mentored. Perhaps we not identify just one person or two. Just have a list of what you want, the people you want to contact, and go. Don't be shy and contact, and perhaps you will get an answer. But if you don't ask, you are not sure that you will be answered or not. But also not focused on your country. Go beyond borders. Ask for a mentorship outside on social media, or I don't know, on platforms. You can have and ask again. If you have you refused to get mentored, try again. Just keep trying and keep asking. I know you will get, perhaps. My advice is not to be shy and go, because life will not give you everything on a plate, but you have to fight yourself and get what you want. This is my advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Our time is fast spent. It's 2 minutes to 4. I request for an extra 10 minutes to finalize the webinar. And if that is allowed, I would like Patson to address a question on AI that's in the Q&A. What's the position of AI and growth of recent technology like ChatGPT in the legal profession, and how do we as young lawyers remain competitive and brand ourselves with the growth of such technology?
Thank you very much. And I was looking forward to this question, particularly because while it may not particularly touch personal branding per se, it can be seen, first of all, as a threat to work, but also to our own survival as lawyers. As you might have heard, I think in the recent past, there was even a trial of AI in courtroom to see whether they can argue cases. And recent statistics demonstrate that certain jobs are actually going to be phased out as a result of AI. And one of them that was highlighted is paralegals legal assistance, because pretty much of their work is either clerical or drafting of documents that are now being generated by AI, including sample submissions. They can draft letters, agreements now. So you will note that from the young lawyer perspective, it's already projected that certain jobs will be kicked out, including accountants and other statistics that are available online. So from the branding and positioning point of view, young lawyers now, you live in interesting times that have opportunities, but also challenges. And the opportunities and challenges all lie in technology. One, it is easy now to master in a particular area in the comfort of your room without traveling to London, to New York, or to wherever to pursue a particular course because of technology and online studying that has been open. So what that means is that we've got to skill ourselves to ensure that, first of all, we anticipate the new trends and we prepare ourselves in terms of skill set to be able to take up that. And we might talk of artificial intelligence, but I think if you've been a student of legal practice for the last 30 years, you will note that almost every decade, there's a change on what is trending and what is bread and butter for lawyers. If I may use an example of Uganda, people who are in teaching profession and practicing were one of the most enviable lawyers in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And early 90s, because of the reforms of the economy, now the banking and finance lawyers became the most sought after lawyers. So the skills to draft, to recover, and to represent financial institutions was the in thing. When there was a new constitution, constitutional lawyers and human rights lawyers were the in thing probably from 95 to 2005. They made a killing out of the industry. But then later, there was a change. You have government investing in projects and infrastructure. So project finance lawyers, project lawyers became an in thing. And you will note now we are in discussion on data protection. There's a reason, because we now have technology penetration in almost every lifestyle, whether at work, at home, we live in cyberspace now. So the question is, what are the threats in particular jobs that will be phased out as a result of technology? And how are we positioning ourselves to ensure that even with technology, we'll be able to live beyond it? Of course, there are certain works that I won't do. But the question is that how are we preparing ourselves? Legal practice is a living, it's living, meaning it changes almost. Maybe I've looked at 10 years as a broad spectrum, but you know that every 5 years, are you gaining new skills? What have you learned that positions yourself for the next decade? I've seen lawyers who have been practicing law at a high level for 30 years. And some of my questions to them is how have you managed to stay relevant, stay on top of the game, ranked by chambers for the last 20 years? It is something that can be seen as obvious, but it is not. There must be certain things that lawyer is doing right. One is changing with times to gain new skills. And sometimes what you are holding dearly, sometimes you go to drop it if it doesn't make sense anymore and gain new skills. So learning has to be a lifestyle for us and to gain new skills. Agatha, allow me, there's a question that came from a colleague from, I think, Zambia. Allow me if I just 1 minute comment on it, relating to mental health. Right now, I think young lawyers and lawyers generally, and any workplace, mental health is a big thing. And young lawyers are now being relegated to drugs, to alcohol, because the issue of mental health is now something relevant that every workplace, every lawyer must be alive to. And the demands even of social media and technology is pushing a lot of pressure for young lawyers to be isolated. Get a mentor, get a coach. Sometimes it's not an issue of how many likes you have over your post that will generate revenue. Likes may not. And I think as Benedict said, how do you change? So there's a need for awareness of mental health. As young lawyers, I think we're still productive to stay in the gym. We do a lot of work desk work and mental work that we need to exercise, eat well for longevity, so that our priorities on mental health as we deliver, product for, for our services. Yeah, I thank you.
Thank you, Patson. We have just 2 more questions, but our panelist, Molly, your hand is up. Kindly address.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Agatha. Actually, my hand was up when the issue of mental health was raised, and I thank Patson for kind of talking about it. But maybe I'll just add a few things on what he has said. When I just said practice, maybe from my personal experience, I couldn't disassociate my feelings over a client's issue from my own feelings. So I would go into a file with all my emotions and sentiments, and that is what is killing lawyers today. Actually, there was a study that was that came up, and they were talking about the highest people that are prone to mental health are doctors and lawyers, and for obvious reasons, because their work is kind of sentimental to a certain extent. So maybe to young lawyers, I would like to request that you try to, disaggregate your feelings from the client file. Otherwise, you always carry all these burdens. But also, I think Patson also mentioned it, hit the gym, because we do a lot of work at your desk from morning to evening, even past working time, because of too much work. So I think that is something that is really important to do. But also, I'm trying to catch up with time, but also manage your risk appetite. Sometimes we think that issues of managing risk appetites are things for big corporates, commercial banks, and all that kind of thing. But it's really, really important for us to take on what we can chew. So you find a lawyer has so many files, so many deadlines, and this also is connected to the issue of credibility that was discussed earlier. Do what you have to do, but do it well. So don't reduce mediocrity in the sense that you get about 10 files to complete in a week, and then you want to do them well. That contributes to your mental health issues, but also it takes clients away. So I think let's also manage our risk appetite. I think my final advice on this, just like any other business, come up with a business plan as a law firm or an individual business plan and say, within a week, I can only do this much. Within a month, I can only do this much. Within a year, I can only do this much. Even if it means, putting boundaries on what you can take in terms of the quality, in terms of the value. I think it's very key, just like you plan for any other business, plan for your business too. Let me stop there, Agatha, before you stop me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Molly. We're just going to have final remarks from Eric.
Thank you very much, Agatha. Thank you, colleague, for having listened to us. I must admit that I have also learned a lot from my fellow panelists, and it is good when the East Africa community connects during such forums. I pray that we can have more of this in the future. But finally, and maybe just to sum it up, I think I have 2 thoughts. The first thought for me, and especially as a word to young and upcoming advocates, in the practice of law, there is no alternative to hard work. And I think someone said that there is no shortcut to any place worth going. So I would still emphasize that you need to put in the work, put in the hard work. There are no shortcuts, there are no quick wins. And then lastly, the interior designer who did my office here in Nairobi put up something very interesting in the room where we have our people sitting, and it reads, "Be the lawyer that your parents wanted you to marry." So I will leave you with that as my last word. Be the lawyer that your parents wanted you to marry. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for that. Let's have final remarks from Diane.
Thank you, Agatha. It was a good session, and thank you for giving the chance to be in this forum. It's very interesting. And my last advice of all the young lawyers is to be responsible of their life or their personal development and to brand themselves. There is no chance for others, for young lawyers, to be in this competitive economy like EAC or a regional economy, then to be to stand out from the crowd and create a unique brand for themselves. We have to be as we have to be what we are and create our own brand to be competitive. Thank you. Thank you for all panelists also. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for that. Let's then have some final remarks from Benedict.
Thank you. Thank you for my fellow panelists. I have nothing further to say. Let's stay connected. Appreciate the East African Law Society for hosting such an incredible event. Just a word to go. I would just say, you know, the myth about personal branding. So young lawyers, they should know that the firm or employer cannot brand you, and it's okay to brand yourself, even though you are in a law firm. That is had nothing to do with the law firm. And then personal brand dilutes the firm brands. No, there's nothing. Nobody can tell you that you may have more brand than your firm. It's okay to have more brand even than your firm because that's your personal life. As other colleagues say, it's also at the end of the day about your mental health. So learn how to balance your work. Learn also to say no to a certain kind of work. And then personal branding is not about online only, because the notion right now is online. Personal branding can also be about offline. Who are the people you're meeting? How do you connect it? Who are the people you're having coffee with? Where do you having coffee with them? And who are your friends? And who are your peers and colleagues? Having said so, I say thank you and see you soon.
Thank you, Benedict. And finally, Patson.
First, thank you, Agatha, for moderating this session. It's been great, and I appreciate for putting us together and coordinating us to deliver this webinar. I appreciate your work that you've done. And to the fellow panelists, thank you for putting aside your billable hours to share. I think it's great to share knowledge with others, and that's how we sharpen each other and grow. And to the colleagues I know, even in the audience, there might have been great people who could have had also, good ideas that they could share with us, but we really appreciate for the time. And legal practice is a journey. We need each other to grow, together. But let us not leave branding to chance. If you have an opportunity to have somebody mention your name in a place where a meal is served, tell him. But also do the same. If you see a budding lawyer, you feel you need to mention his or her name in a place of opportunities, please do it. We all get opportunity from each other. Let's grow each other. And East African region is just without borders. I do look forward to connecting with all of you and, whenever chance, avails itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Patson, Molly tried to summarize her parting shots. I don't know if you want to make them, you had anything to add, Molly?
Thank you, Agatha. I thought I had already exhausted my time. But one thing that I can say is to thank everyone, the other panelists, and also to say that as lawyers, let's keep it's a work in progress, and we should be resilient. That's number one. We should know that our personal brand is not separate from our professional brand, and then also manage our mental health, just like the rest have indicated. But also mostly for women, and now I want to revert to women. Sometimes they don't have these opportunities to engage, network, the golf course and bars and stuff like that, but you can still build your brand as a woman and be able to succeed just like the men. And also personal brand does not mean backstabbing your fellow lawyers. So let's always keep that in mind. People think that for you to move ahead, you need to step on someone's feet, but you can actually you can move ahead together or move ahead without stepping on someone's feet. So I just wanted to mention that, and thank you, Agatha, for everything.
All right, thank you, our panelists and the participants that have braved it all the way to the end. As the East Africa Young Lawyers Committee, we are committed to bringing you more and more relevant webinars in this year, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a good evening.